This is Karen with NewClevelandRadio.net, and it's time for How to Super Age with Elise Marie Collins. And today, our podcast, I'm not going to say in advance it's going to be shorter, but it might be, because our guest is actually Elise's book. And we talked about this quite a few months ago before it came out, but Chakra Tonics, essential elixirs for the mind, body, and spirit. And, Elise, I get up every morning and I make a smoothie for myself. And I try so hard to make sure that I'm using really fresh, good ingredients, so it comes out as a clean smoothie. And it's interesting, that sometimes you think, oh, well, I'm just gonna use this fruit or that fruit, and a lot of times I buy frozen fruit, but now I have to make sure that it is freshly frozen, no additives. So tell us a little bit about what made you decide to write the first book and then update the second book.
Yeah, so I wrote this book. It came out back in 2006. I was writing it in 2005, and my son was in kindergarten. I remember the time well, like it was yesterday, and now he's 23. I wanted to write a book about the chakras and about healthy drinks, because drinks, we all like water is our foremost need. Even before food, we'll die without water, right? We can go without eating. We need water physically. And many of us are dehydrated. Our bodies are 70% water. I learned this in studying the body and yoga. And so the chakras are the body's symbolic system that connects us to our emotions, different psychological challenges. So I've always been fascinated by the psychological system of the chakras, because it really puts in action embodiment. We can say embodiment, but what does that mean exactly? And it's not like suddenly you become embodied. It's a lifelong practice. So this is a guide. And it's number one, it's going to help you to be hydrated, which again, many of us are dehydrated. So there's, even if you're just like, the chakras, take it or leave it, there's great recipes in here that are all the healthy ingredients that when I even first began researching, they weren't as readily available, but now pretty much everything's available, even on Amazon or in your local health food store, right? It's like,
Right.
Ingredients, we've just gotten more and more, I want to say, precise and astute and particular about our health. And it's great to source ingredients locally. Like you said, flash frozen, sometimes maybe in Ohio, there's not as many fresh fruits and vegetables. California, we have a little bit more of a year-round growing season, but we make do with what we have. And it is great to source locally. And then we can also look at ingredients that maybe they grow around us, but they originally came from other parts of the world.
Interesting. And when you held up the cover, what really gets to me is the colors in the drinks, because in the morning when I make my own smoothie and I'm putting the ingredients in, sometimes I put them in, I use certain things like strawberries or blueberries, because I'm just like being pulled to that color. Yeah, aren't those I mean, it's beautiful looking. Absolutely. And this morning I was just feeling, I just needed a little bit of a pick me up, and I wanted to make sure that, I was sort of cleaning myself out. So I used cranberry juice as my liquid in it. And I had this beautiful, bright red drink this morning. And I just felt alive after drinking it. So I think there's a lot of connections there between what we take in and how we allow it to help us.
Yeah, and I almost think, did we mention the name of the book? I'm going to say it out loud because it'll be in the show notes, but I say it every time. I think I almost forgot this time. My book is Chakra Tonics, Essential Elixirs for the Mind, Body, and Spirit. And yeah, colors are so important. Colors are a vibration. Musical notes are a vibration. And we want to eat a variety of colors in our foods. So that's why chakra tonics are really important, because we're thinking of the different colors, and our chakras each have what I call symbolic colors. It runs the rainbow from the base of our spine, starting with red, orange, yellow, green, blue, and then purple, or sort of a gold. So you can imagine there's a rainbow in your body, and we often talk about eating a rainbow of vegetables. So all these things are interwoven in the book. And there's no perfect, recipe for each chakra. And I also have, your first question reminded me of the chapter I have on making your own tonics and smoothies, because you can learn, just from, I'm one of those people, I love to improvise. I love to make up my own recipes, and I'll use these as a base. And then I'll just kind of go off with what I have in my kitchen, because we don't always have the ingredients. They're not
Right.
always in season. But the idea is, here you learn a bit about the function of all the different ingredients. One that's really coming to mind that's a superfood is turmeric. We may not make curries, but you can add turmeric to drinks. It's bitter, but it's a powerful ingredient that helps with inflammation. It decreases inflammation. It's an anti-cancer. There's so many healing properties for turmeric, and you can add that to your smoothie. You can, that's something you need, you can add it to different recipes, and it's a bit bitter, but there's many flavors. Like, one of my favorite new recipes in the book is called the what do I call it? I keep forgetting what it's called, but it's for the belly center. Here it is. I turned right to it, so we
How
know that the
wonderful.
goddess is chai masala energy drink. Chai masala. So the spices in chai, and a lot of, like, chai masala, it's that morning drink. Now, this is not a hot drink. You can serve it room temperature, and you could probably tweak it so it is like a tea type drink, but it's a little thicker, because what I have in here is coconut water, cashew butter. So it's a little thicker. It could almost be a meal replacement. And then it has turmeric and another ingredient called moringa powder. And moringa powder is an amazing, it's like a green leafy, it's now we can get it in powdered here really easily in most health food stores, because it's really inexpensive, and it's used in Africa and India, and it's just one of those superfoods. You just need like a tablespoon, and it's almost like it gives you energy for the whole day. There's other ingredients, but that's one of my favorites. I served that at a party maybe like a month ago, and there was a lot of it was a literary party where there was people that were more, they weren't, it wasn't like your yoga crowd, because I hang out
Right.
with yoga teachers and a lot of different people, and they were like kind of looking at the drink skeptically, like, she's pouring something from a blender, I'm not sure if I'm gonna like this, and they were literally like, weird lady walking around with blender. And some of the people like, this is really good, you could tell they were shocked. So I love that reaction.
Well, I think sometimes, and this was me before I started, making my own smoothies. I would hear people telling me what they were putting into them, and they were putting in things that I just didn't have a taste for. And so I thought, well, why would I ever want to do this? But last year, my doctor said to me, I know you're eating a lot of vegetables. What are you eating in fruit? And I'm not a person who likes to eat raw fruit. Okay. Not me. And I don't like canned fruit either. So therefore, I'm really not getting my fruit. And he said, but do you like thick drinks like a malt? And I said, well, yeah, but wouldn't that be fattening? He said, no, I want you to make it with fruit. And so he gave me a couple of ideas, and I came home and I made the first one, and um, it really wasn't to my liking. But then I thought, well, now I can experiment. And the experimentation has been the fun part, because now when I go to the grocery store, I look at different fruits and it's like, well, I don't need a lot of it. Okay, so I'll get one of those things that's called an ugly fruit. Okay. And I'll try it. And if I don't like it, I don't like it. But a lot of times it just blends in. And so you're really not getting a specific flavor. Um, I've gone online and learned things from you as to what things are healthy and what things maybe are questionable. And it's sort of exciting because I don't have to worry about if anybody else likes it, because I'm making it for me.
Yeah, that's great. That's great.
Yeah.
I love it. And berries especially are so packed with antioxidants because they have, if you think of a berry, they have so much surface area. And I love to think about plants. The plants that help us are often grown in harsh conditions. So they help us deal with harsh conditions. And berries, they have a lot of protection because there's not much in there. They're just little, especially like blueberries. We know
Right.
that blueberries are so good for us, and they have the thick skin and that little part in the middle. And the skin is often what has a lot of the health properties. Some people, like my mom, likes to peel her fruit. And I'm like, don't peel your fruit, Mom. But you can throw things in a blender. And, if you don't like the skin, for example, if you have a strong blender, not all blenders will, emacerate or shred up the skin, but you can make it, like you're saying, that sort of thickening paste. And some of the fruits and vegetables and even things, they have a kind of like a psyllium husk. They have that fiber that is like gelatinous. And so there's also, it's so good for our digestion too, brings us more fiber, the drinks. Now teas, of course, those are also in my recipe book in Chakra Tonics. Teas don't have fiber, of course, and also juices, there's juices, but the smoothies do have added fiber, and they're great for people who need that. You can boost that in the morning, afternoon. You don't have to necessarily always drink them in the morning, but a lot of people do like to drink smoothies in the morning because sometimes it takes us a while to get our appetite up, and we can easily, drinking is a lot easier than eating for
Right.
some of us.
Exactly. I think it's also a good way to introduce young children to healthy eating. Um, and, because kids like something that looks pretty. And so when you make some of these, and maybe you put a garnish of an orange on the top of it, for your child. I don't go that far with myself because it's for me. So I don't do that. But um, a lot of people have said that, that's what they do. They'll put a garnish of a strawberry, of an orange, something that their child really, really likes. Um, and then they let them know there's more of that inside the drink. And so now it's exciting. It's like, well, okay, I will try it. Whereas sometimes if you put a piece of fruit in front of them, they go running and crying because they don't want to have it. So what got you into these chakra tonics? I know that you are into yoga and geriatrics, but creating recipes like this, you said your son was in kindergarten. Was it something that you just wanted to do because he was in school, or something that you just wanted to do for yourself?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think there's two answers. One is my mom always bought health food, back before it was even called health food. My parents were foodies and buying, we grew up in, or I grew up in the Bay Area in the East Bay. and we had something called the Gourmet Ghetto where Chez Panisse started, and my mom would go there and buy all these, stuff that I kind of was, ugh, why is she buying these things? And I wished my mom was more quote unquote, had normal foods. Like I was like, can you make some macaroni and cheese or chicken pot pie? And we just didn't eat those things. We had a lot of like, I would say it was more, we called them ethnic foods, or, there wasn't even California cuisine at that time. I don't know what they called it. But now I'm like so appreciative of being exposed to all these different foods. And I do recall that I always liked to eat all different things. I wasn't a picky eater. So I have this kind of foodie side to me, and seeing my mom experiment with recipes. Another thing that happened with her was sometimes I would really like something she made, and I'd say, can you make that again, Mom? And she's like, oh, I just made it up. So she was very experimental in her cooking. We always had tons of cookbooks. We still have, I live with my mom now and still have lots and lots of cookbooks. We love to collect cookbooks. And then I went on this spiritual path where traveling, I got interested in auras and chakras and sort of Eastern philosophy. I later became a yoga teacher. And so I combined these, and one of my friends was a publisher, and we came up with this together, Chakra Tonics. And it was like, yeah, that's a great mixing of these two things. And I think when it first came out, it was a little ahead of its time, because it's still, it's like 16, over, almost going to be a couple years, it'll be 20 years past, but people barely knew what the chakras were now. And it's changed so much, and not everybody knows what the chakras are, but they give us sort of a blueprint to, like, let's focus. You can't see my belly, but rub your belly right now. Rub your belly, and your belly is like your ego, and it's the center of fire. So I love to talk about this center, because sometimes we think ego is bad, but it's not really bad, because it gives us that up and at 'em, that go, go, go. If we don't have fire in our belly, we don't have energy. We're probably depressed, depleted. The ego becomes, quote, negative when maybe it's blocked in a certain way. We didn't get validation or attention. And the beauty of the chakras and the chakra tonics is you can look in that recipe or that chapter. And for example, the chai masala energy drink is in I'll say the Indian word. I call it the belly center, or the Manipura center. That's the Indian name. This center helps you to kind of balance that, whether you are low. Some of us I tend to be more people pleaser. So I'm not always, I need more fire. I need to be like, okay, this, where some people, they have too much. They need to soften a little, back off. We all have different sort of challenges and wounds in each of these areas. So the chakra tonics are a beautiful way you can turn to what you need, that chapter, maybe the ego chapter, the belly center, and make the drinks. The ingredients will heal you. Like if you need more energy, that Manipura, the chai masala energy drink will give you energy without that caffeine blast. It doesn't have caffeine, even though it's chai masala. You could add tea to it, or I don't think coffee would taste good, but tea. But it's designed to not have caffeine, and that's a way. They're all the recipes. Plus, the added benefit is that you're contemplating this, because we want to also engage our mind in healing, our presence, right? It's the mind, body, and spirit.
And it's interesting, because I guess I could go back many, many years. And when I first got introduced to the concept of mind, body, and spirit, it was like, that was too woo-woo for me. I really just thought, no, my mind tells me what to do, and my body is the result of that. But I didn't think about the fact that my mind was watching other people around me and commercials and reading magazines and newspapers that had ads. And my mind was telling me certain things were good for me when they definitely were not. And it's only probably within maybe the last 5-10 years that I can be standing in a grocery store and looking at something that is really horrible for me. Okay. Just looking at it, I'm gaining weight, I'm getting sick, I'm being depleted. And all of a sudden I'll tune into that. It's like, what is happening to me? Oh, if I buy that, I'll eat it. If I eat it, this is how I'm going to feel. I don't want to feel this way. And so it will engage me to keep moving forward. And I never thought that was possible until you start listening to other people who have had the same ailments that you may have had. And, I always knew to eat my vegetables and fruits, but my mother fed us a lot of canned vegetables and canned fruit growing up. And that just was not interesting to me. And I don't like canned vegetables, canned fruit, depending on how it's being used, maybe, but I go for the fresh stuff. And fresh fruits today and vegetables, they don't last very long in the house. So that to me is a really good reason to make those elixirs to give me the energy that I need and take care of my insides. It's really simple.
Yeah, I love that. And two things I noticed in what you just shared is there's the outward stimulation, what messages we get from the culture around us, even if it's just like what's on the shelf in the grocery store, what's on the billboards, what's on TV. And we're not taught in United States, we're all brought up in different cultures in our families, but many of us we're not taught to listen to our bodies or listen to what's in. That's why I like the Make Your Own Tonics, because I want to empower my readers to be able to start to listen. That's the point. And I actually had it turned to the throat center, and maybe I could just read a couple lines because it just ties in.
Absolutely.
Because our throat center, we think, oh, this is about talking, blah, 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 blah. But we forget it's also right above our throat and our mouth, ears. We have to listen. And I know some people are listening, not seeing, but I'm tapping my ear. The throat chakra, symbolically represented by the color blue, all the chakras have colors, and an empty bowl of ether. So let's just, if you had an empty bowl, ether, what is ether? It's something that we think of like it's not air. I love what one guru said, when you look at a photo that's flat, or if you look at a person, even a screen, you're a little more dimensional. So it just kind of gives a dimensionality. It's not really something that is, like fire. It's a little bit more delicate. So the throat is a lot about very delicate area. And listening is very delicate if you think of that. So an empty bowl of ether, and it's known by the Sanskrit word Vishuddha, which means purification. The fifth chakra is the chakra of eloquence, of human expression. The Vishuddha chakra can manifest in music, visual imagery, or classic literature. Insightful media content or soulful self-expression in relationships qualify as examples of the fifth chakra transmission of spiritual information on the material plane. And the fifth chakra also governs the yin side of sound, silence and listening. That's what I wanted to get to. Someone who talks without listening, interrupts or talks over his or her conversation partner, may be speaking from a place of imposing their power. So listening is also very, very important. So there's just an abundance of lessons in the chakras. That's why I love them, because it just goes beyond politics. It goes beyond everything. And it's this incredible, beautiful system of balance that there's so many tools in our world, but the chakras are a really powerful tool, I find.
Well, I think one of the biggest tools that you provide for us on this podcast really is for us to, sense what we need. Okay. And we've talked about it in all forms of aging and being aware of parents and elders, that are going through the aging process. Because when you're 3, 4, 5 years old, you can run and fall down and get right back up and keep going. And you can skin your knee a dozen times and, you may not even need a Band-Aid. But you get to another age and if you do fall down, even in a playful way, it's not so easy to get up. And if you skin your knee, is probably a little bit more of a bruise than if you were a 3 or 4-year-old. And so it's listening to your body. What does my body say? How is it going to respond to these things? And how can I keep it healthy? And, we don't have to think about it 24/7, and make ourselves go crazy about, oh, I'm getting older and I have to be careful. But it's about just understanding. And, that's what I started to do in the last couple months is like, wait a second, I'm eating certain things. Don't really like them. I mean, they're okay, but they don't do anything for me. But yet when I have my smoothie or I have a really good green salad or some other meal that I make that has healthy components in it, I feel better first psychologically. And then I feel it in the body. And the body says, hey, you fed me properly. So thank you for bringing that to us, because that's something that we don't think about. And especially with the holidays coming up, it's like, we want everybody to eat, but yet the things that are on the table may not be the best thing for everybody to eat. So how do you deal with that when it comes holiday time? Because I know you're pretty good about keeping a clean diet.
Yeah, well, a couple things, there is I would say a spiritual side, mental side, whether or not, if you're an atheist, you can just think of like staying in your kind of zone, so to speak. For me, I pray and meditate. It's like if I'm already feeling full emotionally and spiritually, I don't have that tendency to want to take in, then I'm starting out from a place of like, oh, this is, we do feast and have an abundance for example, on Thanksgiving, and there's many other holidays, but coming from a place of wholeness, of feeling more complete. So I'd say to do the things that make you, meaning all the listeners, feel good about. Maybe it's walking in nature. Maybe it's I have a grounding meditation in the book, and maybe it's just contemplating, like the sacral chakra is more of emotions and sexuality. So maybe it's contemplating, and that's water. So contemplating the different energy centers. You can even just go online, and there's a million now. Etsy, you can buy a chakra chart, or there's a lot of information. Yeah, and the book is great. But you can find out so many things about how to balance yourself. And sometimes it's like a vitamin almost. I think, well, you may just resonate. Like, I think from what you said, Elise, I really need to balance my belly center. So you can focus on what are the prescribed things. Is it, quieting or cooling? It's fire. So if you have a big ego and maybe you need more cooling,
Yeah.
even though it's winter in many parts of the, in the Western hemisphere. So finding balance, I think, is going to help us get through the holidays. And that can also be challenging because we're often pushed by friends and family, because as one of my teachers says, if you can, maintain serenity around those you live with and those that are closest to you, they're the biggest teachers, because
Right.
we all know that that's the challenges, right? It's easier to be more balanced around strangers often.
Right. Well, it's funny you should say that because my husband and my son and I, we spent many holidays alone because family does not live in our area. And last year we went to upstate New York to be with my brother and his family and extended family. And I couldn't wait to get there. And I did have a great time. But when you're not used to being around that many different people with the abundance of food that they had, I said the next day when we left, you know what, next year we won't go up for Thanksgiving. We'll just go up at a different time. There was too much commotion. Well, guess what? We're going back up. And we're going to be there for Thanksgiving. And it's because there was something about that commotion that I needed. Okay. I knew what to eat, what not to eat. I thought about my comfort level. And also there were times when conversations were going on that if it didn't help me, not that I was being obvious to others, but I sort of withdrew from the conversation so that I could find my center. And you can do that. And when I realized that's what I did, and that's what in the end made it so pleasant, and then gave me that push a couple weeks ago to say, hey, let's go back, because we all need a connection. And that is my big connection. So, but you can do it in a healthy way. And again, listening to you and your guests, it just triggers little things that say, well, wait a second, there's a way to do this, but maybe we have to figure it out for ourselves. The same way, like you said, your recipes, they may not be the perfect recipe for each of us, but when we look at it, oh, I can make it this way. Or, hey, I like what Elise has created here. That's what I'm going to do. So, you've given us a lot to energize ourselves over.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. I love what you said about being in a group, because that's a great way to think of the holidays. And one way I would even flip that is a lot of times we go to, I'm a yoga teacher, and so I see where people come to my classes because they'll do more when they're in that social environment. They might not be interacting with everybody in the class and chit-chatting, but you see everybody around you. Okay, everybody's doing this pose and that pose. Whereas if we do it on our own, well, I'll do something else now, I'll get distracted. So the distraction, that sort of social aspect. And I would also remind students of that too. You're more likely to try something that might not be great for your body when you're around other people, seeing them do that. I used to say that to my postnatal students when I was teaching mom and baby. I would say, like, this is like you're at a party and someone keeps pouring more wine because they're coming back from having a baby and they were so excited to be in class and see the other babies and the other moms, and they'd sort of forget, and then they would get really sore or uncomfortable, overdo it. So I said, like, just imagine, you're a little more, because we can forget, right? If somebody keeps pouring.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
That's my metaphor for that. It works both ways. It's nice to have the distraction and the connection, like you said. It can take us out of our comfort zone to new places that we want to go, but it can also take us away from that centering that we've been talking about.
Absolutely. Well, tell us again how our listeners can find your book and, start preparing for the new year.
Okay, so my book, Chakra Tonics. Oh, I want to announce that it is on sale on the Mango. It's published by Mango Press and Mango Publishing. The actual imprint is Canary Press, but that's now owned by Mango. And the website is Mango, just like the fruit, mango. And I got a mango drink in here, mango.bz. And the book is 30% off. In fact, all the books on Mango are 30% off through, I believe, the new year. I'll link that in the show notes, mango.biz. And you can also get it on Amazon if you're on Amazon. Pretty much anywhere you can order it from any retailer because it's on a a publisher that retailers can, if you like to support your local bookstore or you want to go on an indie bound. I know a lot of people are really into supporting their local bookstores, which I support as well. And you can go there and just ask them to order it and get it there. And it is a great gift. I had a workshop last Sunday that I told everybody about last week. And we had some people buying gifts, the book for friends and relatives at the workshop. So,
well, I'm so glad we were able to do this today to provide our listeners with a little bit more in-depth information about the book. I hope everybody just runs out right now and buy it. And then tell us what your favorite drink is. How are you using the book to, put yourself in balance? Because I certainly would find that interesting. And I think Elise putting it together, she's going to find that of interest as well. So thank you again. We will do this again soon, and have a great day, Elise. Bye-bye.